Greetings, everyone. My name is Akshat Gupta, Director of Business Development at the US Immigration Fund. I'd like to begin by saying that it's an absolute pleasure to bring IREX in the city of Pearls in Hyderabad. We are often here almost once a quarter, but to have an inaugural event of IREX in Hyderabad is an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining. And again, I'd like to thank the entire team of IREX for organizing a wonderful conference year after year. We at the US Immigration Fund are proud to be the platinum partners for the IREX 2024 Hyderabad edition. Right, let's start my presentation with a few basics. So let's understand what is the EB-5 visa program. The EB-5 visa program is basically a program that offers a pathway to permanent residency of the US, where it comes at an investment amount of minimum $800,000 invested in a targeted employment area project, and that investment needs to create a minimum of 10 jobs. Now, a common question, why do I need a permanent green card of the US? In simple words, a US permanent green card helps you, your family, your relatives to have the unrestricted work and travel permit to be able to do whatever you like to in the US. So what does that mean? That means that if today you, your friends, your family, your relatives are in the US, they can pretty much run their own business. They can run their own consultancy. They are no longer tied to an H-1B employer sponsorship. So they have the freedom and the will to be able to carry out business activities the way they'd like to. A few updates in the EB-5 visa program which came across from March 2022 when the USCIS or the US government came up with a new law which is called the Reform and Integrity Act of 2022 are as follows. So a EB-5 application covers an investor, their spouse, and children under the age of 21. Now, you could file it only for your child. You could file it with the mother and the children. You could file it with the husband, wife, and children. That's completely your call. Nobody's pressurizing you to accompany the entire family, so it's completely your choice. As I said, unlike the H-1B visa program, it does not require an employer sponsorship. It's completely a program that's driven by you, that's enacted by you, and you're solely responsible for taking that pledge or initiative. Apart from the two factors, which is the minimum investment of $800,000 and that investment creating a minimum of 10 jobs, there are no other eligibility criteria. So anyone can apply. There is no restriction or no requirement apart from these two by the USCIS. One of the bigger positives out of the recent updates from the program is, and we're going to be discussing this in the panel shortly, is that currently there is no waiting list for EB-5 investors if you are an Indian born. And essentially we right now targeting people who are Indian born, whether in India, whether in UAE, whether in the US, anywhere. If you're looking at EB-5 visa program, this is a good time because there is no waiting list for you as an Indian born. We've seen as industry professionals, as experts in this industry, we've seen faster approvals come from the USCIS. So we've seen approvals as early as 12 months for a conditional green card. And certainly, I mean, it's optimistic. It's good to see USCIS acting in a faster manner because at the end of the day, when you do file an application, it's not in your control, it's not in our control. It's the USCIS that has to give you an approval at the end of the day. I believe one of the stars of the act, and I'm going to take a minute to sort of emphasize on this and break it down for you in simple words, is the provision to file a simultaneous I-485 application, or in simple words, an adjustment of status application along with your conditional green card. And now, this is a provision which is only applicable or available to people who are currently in the US on a valid visa category. So let's take an example. Let's say you had a friend or a relative who was on an H-1B visa program in the US currently. Prior to 2022, they had to essentially wait for their conditional green card to be approved, which could take years. But now under the new program, if I am on an H-1B visa program, if I am on a valid visa category in the US, while I file my conditional green card, which could take a year or two for it to be approved, we have seen proof of concept in terms of number of combo cards or the Employment Authorization Directive cards or the EAD combo cards, where investors are getting an unrestricted travel and work permit as early as 3 to 6 months from the date of application. So while this program is divided into two steps where you first get a conditional green card and you then get a permanent green card, the beauty about this program in today's scenario is if you are someone who is on a valid visa in the US, and if you choose to file the adjustment of status application, you can pretty much derive these benefits as early as 4 to 6 months from the date of application. More supervision of regional centers by USCIS. This is something that we are always up for. We're game for it. As a good regional center, we always support USCIS, and I think that's a good step in terms of investor protection. Yeah. I'm proud to represent the brand of US Immigration Fund. So as USIF, we've been in this industry since 2010. Since we've been a part of this industry, we've known to be an industry leader. Over the last 14 years, we've worked with about 6,000 plus investors and their families. We've done about 25 plus EB5 projects, and we've raised about $3 billion in EB5 fundraising. So that does talk a little bit about our experience, about our track record. And I'd humbly love to say that, happy to, speak to you in detail once, probably you come and speak to us at our booth. So these are just a few snippets of a couple of decorated projects that we've done in the past in the history of USIF in the last 14 years. You look at the 88 Kushner Cabot, you look at the 101 Tribeca, the 701 Times Square, 850 Fifth Avenue, or the Via Meisner at Phase 1. What remains common in all of these projects is one thing. Number one is that in all of these projects, our investors got 100% approval on their permanent green card. And the second is, in all of these projects, our investors got 100% repayment of capital. Now, we as a regional center understand that when you sign up and do take the pledge of filing an EB5 application, you're essentially entering into a relationship of close to 4 to 5 years with the regional center, right? Which means that you need someone who's giving you a personalized experience. You need someone who's there to answer your questions. We try and focus essentially on your two main goals, which is securing the green card and getting your capital back. And that's what we specialize in. Yeah, I mean, these are obviously points for your reference, but in simple words, what separates us from anyone else is in the industry is the compassion that we have for our investors. We have a global team. We are headquartered in Jupiter, Florida, which is on the East Coast. We have a full-fledged team in China as well. I am based out of Delhi, but I love the city of Hyderabad. I'm here almost once in 3 months, and yeah, I'm always happy to speak to you if you have any questions. I'd like to now play a small video, which is like a corporate video for your reference, because I know you've received a lot of information, so better to probably see a video and get a little bit of an understanding. This also has a small mention from our president, Nicholas Mastriani III.
Since the inception of the EB5 program in 1990, tens of thousands of investors and family members' lives have been changed forever, while also creating hundreds of thousands of American jobs and financing some of the top real estate projects in the United States. Over nearly a decade, the U.S. Immigration Fund has proved itself to be the premier EB5 regional center. To date, USIF is assisting nearly 6,000 families to apply through the program, bringing approximately $3 billion of investment to the United States.
Since the formation of the U.S. Immigration Fund, we have grown to be known as a leader in our industry, and we've been touted with successfully raising funds and being involved with some of the most recognizable EB5 projects in the history of the program, from New York and New York City to Florida and across the country to California. USIF has experienced an unparalleled track record of success for nearly 6,000 investors and their families.
The company's success is based on its strong partnerships with international immigration agents, attorneys, third-party advisors, and the development sponsors that they invest with.
Over the years, U.S. Immigration Fund has built long-lasting relationships with world-renowned development companies, ranging from multi-billion-dollar publicly traded groups to multi-generational, 100-plus-year-old family-run development companies. These companies have been responsible for masterminding some of the country's most revered districts, some of the most recognizable buildings in the entire world.
Right, so no matter what the project, whether a new project, whether a multifamily, whether a hotel, a few basics remain common, right? So we try and partner with developers that have a huge history of real estate in the US that have done great projects. We try and do those projects which come with a proven technology, proven method of job creation, because our second pillar for you to get your permanent green card is to ensure that your application creates those minimum number of 10 jobs. I'm happy to talk in brief, won't take a lot of your time today, but in brief about our project, which is Summit, New Jersey. So Summit, New Jersey is basically a multi-family project for lease. Again, I repeat, not for sale, for lease, in the city of Jersey City and New Jersey. So this project is basically being backed by Kushner developers. Now, this is a renowned name in the field of US real estate history. The Kushner companies comes in with a background of about 40 years in the field of real estate. They have a rich portfolio of about $15 billion. When you look at New Jersey or Jersey City as an area, this developer has done more than about 50% of construction activity in this area. They are a household name. People know them by their name. They have a brand value. And they've sort of backed that with numbers and performance year after year. In our 14 years, this is our second partnership with the Kushner companies, and the reason why we're sort of re-partnering with them is because back in 2014, we did a project called the 88 Kushner Cabur, which I did present to you in my initial slides. Now, this was a project where we raised about $50 million for 100 EB5 investors, because at that time, the investment amount was $500,000 per investor. What remains common is that more than 100% or almost 100% of all our investors in this project got their permanent green cards approved. But not only that, the developer ended up repaying 100% of our investors 1.5 years ahead of schedule. So the developer was supposed to pay all our investors in 5 years. They ended up repaying all our investors with 100% repayment in 3.5 years itself. So the reason why we're re-partnering with them out of the 25 projects, the reason why this is our second project with them is because it's backed by a successful partnership. It's backed by trust. It's backed by results. And that's the reason why we're happy to re-partner with them in our new project offering. As an EB5 investor, I'm sure you're going to meet a lot of regional centers today. You're going to see a lot of presentations. But the idea of our presentation today is to try and make it as simple as possible for you. Now, when you're evaluating an EB5 project, you're obviously concerned about the likelihood of the project being able to repay you depends on what is the asset class of the project, what is the location of the project. Now, we mentioned about the asset class being multifamily for lease. I'm sure you'd all agree that even in an economic uncertainty, the demand for rental as a family, as a multifamily is always there. More so, if you look at the location of this project, I was personally at the project site in December 2023. I met the developer, I asked him, I probed him on questions, and what they came across is that what they said was, essentially this project is designed to provide an affordable housing solution to all New York City students and workers. And I'm sure for anyone who has any relationship with the US, they'd understand that there's a huge difference in terms of rentals when you look at New York City, downtown Manhattan, or Jersey City for that matter. I have a lot of friends and family in the US as well, and most of them who work at the Googles and the Amazons and the Facebooks of the world obviously travel and look at an affordable housing solution in and around this Jersey City area and then travel all their way back to, by taking a train ride for about 15-20 minutes to downtown Manhattan. I was also amazed to hear and know that there's an Akshardham temple in Jersey City. So, there's a huge population of Indian people in and around this area. Indian community is very strong. A personal anecdote is when I was at the project site, from the view, I could see an Indian flag hoisted at a particular building. So it always gives you a lot of pride, it gives you a lot of happiness, and obviously these are important factors that come into play when you're evaluating a project. Now, this is essentially a project which is spread across 2 million square feet of space. It has about 1,723 units, about 40,000 square feet of retail, about 45,000 square feet of amenities where they've done a partnership with Google, so their technology is into this project as well. In terms of vertical space, it's about 63 stories in terms of its vertical height as well. These are just a few images as renderings. I'll quickly go through them and not waste much of your time. Right, so in terms of the retail aspect, which is about 40,000 square feet of space, we've had Target, which is a big competitor to, something like a Walmart in the US. They're one of the biggest companies when you look at big US companies. So Target, CVS Pharmacy, and Starbucks have not only signed a lease with the developer, but they've committed to a 10-year lease. So that shows the commitment of big companies like these towards the project, towards providing a better experience for all the people who are going to be staying in this project. And why are we talking about these things? Why are we mentioning these names to you? Why are we sharing these details? That's essentially because when you're evaluating multiple EB5 projects, you want to see which is a project which has a good brand name, which is backed by a good developer, which has good companies partnering with it, because all of this at the end of the day increases the likelihood of you being repaid by the project at the end of the investment tenure. We're currently under phase 2 start, or let's say phase 3 of the construction. So the project began construction in June of 2022, and it's expected to complete substantial completion by the first quarter of 2026. Currently, the developer is running 2 months ahead of schedule in terms of construction, so that's always a positive to share. Again, so you would have heard of this term called construction completion guarantee. Similarly, in our project, we do come up with a construction completion guarantee. The developer's done a contract with a company called AJD Constructions, and again, it was pleasing to know that it's headed by an Indian who's from Gujarat. So, Indians are obviously rocking the boat, whether it's in India, whether it's in the US, and this project also comes up with a construction completion guarantee. So what it does is, in basic terms, is that it ties the cost of construction for a particular project. So no matter the increase or decrease in cost of raw materials in the future, anything, the cost of construction for the developer is tied, and that's again a secured advantage for you as an EB5 investor. Now these are images for your reference, won't take much of your time, but if you see, I was here at the project site in December 2023. In the last 6 months, I've personally onboarded more than 20 EB5 investors from India and the US. And it's heartening to see that there's construction happening, and not just happening, but happening at a really rapid pace. So this is Tower 1. It was midway into construction in March 2024, and it's sort of completely going to be topped off by this month end. By July. It's already topped off now. These are images from May. So that's, again, positive signs. As an investor, you might get an opportunity to see the project. You might not get an opportunity to see the project. But images, references, videos like these of time-lapse construction videos are, again, things that you can do as an investor to reduce your risk and feel more confident about making this investment or taking the pledge. The pillar of the program is creating these 10 jobs, right? So as US Immigration Fund, in this project, we're raising about $50.4 million with 63 EB5 investors. Now, in basic terms, that means that I need to create a minimum of 630 jobs for your investor application, or for all our EB5 investors in this project. Only and only because this project had begun construction in June of 2022, when we as USIF onboarded this project in January this year. Even when we had onboarded this project, the developer had already created more than 100% of the jobs in this project. So all these 20 investors that did onboard with us, they came into this project knowing that indirectly my permanent green card is safe, because the developer has already created more than 100% of the jobs required. Furthermore, by the end of the construction activity in 2026, there are going to be 4,900 jobs going to be created. So there's like 78 jobs per every 10 jobs required. That's more than enough. And as in the previous presentations, people had mentioned that as long as the project is creating 15 jobs, 17 jobs, it's great. But yeah, certainly it doesn't hurt to invest in a project which has about 80 jobs per every 10 jobs required. We did have a recent update from the project mentioning that they've secured a full construction loan. So the developer secured a funding of about $295 million for the particular project, which was backed by companies like Apollo and IREX Hudson Realty Capital. Now, focusing on the second most important aspect is the likelihood of a project being able to repay you. As an EB5 investor, the answer to this question lies in the capital stack of the project, right? We, in all honesty, are more than happy to present the capital stack to you. So if you look at this project, a few things, or if you look at this capital stack, a few things stood out for me, which are as follows. Number one, you've got big companies like AIG, like Apollo, backing the project, where you have about $530 million invested by them, which means they've done their due diligence, they've had a thorough team, understand the financials, understand the demand for this particular project, and then funded their money. Second is we raising EB5 only for Tower 2 as a mezzanine debt, which means when you're looking at a mezzanine debt, that means you're ahead of the developer in the capital stack. So that means that if I am the developer and I don't pay EB5 investors 50.4 million, I am not getting a single dollar out of the $117 million invested by them in that particular project. And the last and the most important is that because this project is fully capitalized and because EB5 is just 50.4 out of 975 million, which is close to 5% of the overall capital stack, the dependency on, let's say, a US immigration fund or EB5 investors on this project is close to negligible. So what the funds that we are raising are in the form of a bridge finance. Let's say even if we didn't raise these funds, the project would still go ahead and finish construction irrespective. So again, these are points that you would want to know, you would want to understand to evaluate the credit worthiness of the project, to evaluate whether what is the likelihood of you being able to get your capital back. As standard practice, this is a project which comes under a TEA category, so this is a high unemployment area project. The law requires us to file or have a I-956F receipt notice for us to be able to onboard any EB5 investors in a project. Again, won't take much of your time, but when we met the developer, they did share a comparative study with us, and 3 things, again, that stood out for me in this slide are as follows. Number 1 is that if you look at the summit, it's gotten 1,723 units. So the narrative is that this project is going to be the largest multifamily rental project in the entire city, in the entire New Jersey or Jersey City. Secondly, if you look at the timelines of other projects in and around this area haven't been new projects post 2022. So there's obviously a novelty concept in terms of a world-class or a higher top-notch multifamily project being offered to investors. And the third is, I'm sure a lot of people here who are interested, who've sort of been giving us our time, you'd understand that if you look at the rentals for a studio or a 1BR or a 2BR, they're very competitively priced to all other nearby rental multifamily projects. So all of these factors are something that stood out for me, and that's why I wanted to share it with you so that you have a better understanding of our project. Yeah, so these are just a few highlights. Won't take much of your time. I won't go through them again because we do have a very detailed discussion about EB5 coming shortly. I'll just skip through them. Happy to discuss this with you in detail at our booth. The last point before I conclude is that we at US Immigration Fund are extremely proud to market our loan program. We are offering loans of up to $300,000 to all our EB5 investors in this particular project. So while we began our presentation by saying that you need a minimum of $800,000 to invest in EB5, if you and your family still have $500,000 and have access to those funds, you can still fulfill your dream. You can still file an EB5 application by taking a $300,000 loan from us. And to be honest with you, it's absolutely optional, so we don't mandate or it's not a compulsory service. It's just an extra added, value-added service from our side, if in case you're interested. The loan from our side is structured in a way where we extend it for the entire term of the duration of the project, which in a way makes us a buy investor into the project. So we have our skin in the game as much as you do in the project. And again, these are positive signs for any investor when they're evaluating a project. If a regional center has their own money involved in a particular project from their lending entity, it just talks volumes about their confidence in the particular project. I won't go into much details about the financing program, but I'd just say that do come visit us at the booth, and if you, do obviously evaluate your eligibility criteria, because we do have one, so we'd love to go through your details and then get back to you if you can avail this facility or not. You can scan the QR code. We are going to be here for a while. I am in the city of Hyderabad for a few days, so please feel free to reach out to me. Please feel free to come to our booth if you'd like to talk to us or gain more knowledge. I'd just like to conclude by saying that since eternity, USIF has known to be an industry leader in the space of EB5. We tirelessly continue to work to achieve the 2 main objectives, which is securing your green card and accessing or getting the repayment of capital done. On behalf of the entire team of USIF, I thank you and thank IREX for giving us a wonderful opportunity year after year to present our projects. I thank you all for sitting, for listening to us, and I wish you all an awesome conference ahead. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.